All right, I get a lot of questions about my equipment and how I get my sound. And one interesting thing about me is that I use basically the same gear live as I do in the recording studio. It's literally the same equipment with just a couple of tweaks when we do the recording process. And the equipment is really very simple. You know, I am an acoustic guitar player. The initial tones are created on an acoustic instrument. But my acoustic guitar really, you could debate whether it really is an acoustic guitar anymore. It's got a pickup in it. And we're going to get to what's on the guitar itself. But once the sound leaves the guitar via the pickup, let's take a look at where it goes. It goes through here. Come on, follow me now. And because my pickup is an LR Baggs pickup, I use the matching LR Baggs Para Acoustic DI as my preamp. And I've got one output running to my tuner, which I have been using for a long, long time, the Chord Toneworks tuner. Real nice tuner. Then the output of the preamp is actually feeding one of the vintage Ibanez CS9 stereo chorus pedals, the old lavender one. And this is where I get the split from a mono signal, because I only have one pickup on my guitar. Unlike a lot of guys who have two or three, I'm still using just a single source pickup. And to create that stereo split, I use the stereo chorus. Now, we're going to take a look at the chorus settings in just a minute once we get plugged in, but let's follow the signal routing now. So it's the signal into the DI, out of the DI into the chorus. It splits left and right, and then you can see I've got an old Mackie 1202, I think is what it is. Gosh, I've had it forever, and it's been a workhorse for a long time. And the reason I like to send it into a mixer is because this is actually the rig that I've been taking out to live gigs for a long, long time. And it allows me to add my vocal mic in here. I've got a stereo, these are the sends and returns for the stereo chorus, which is really the only other piece of gear of consequence within my setup. I use an old ART RXR Elite reverb unit. It's a single processor. In other words, it doesn't do other effects at all. It's a single engine processor. It only does reverbs. And I've got my reverb set on about a 4-second chamber, like a big chamber, which really is just a slight tweak of one of the presets that came with the unit. And from the mixer, I'm feeding a stereo crossover, and we'll explain why we're doing that. From the stereo crossover, I'm feeding an amp that runs my low end and an amp that runs my high end. And let's take a look at what the low end and high end boxes are. If you take a look here, this is one side of my typical touring I'd call it my stage monitor rig. You know, every electric guitar player shows up to his gig with either, you know, his favorite Fender Twin or a Vox AC30 or a Marshall Stack. It's really a critical piece of gear for their sound. And it's interesting that there's still kind of a pushback out there from a lot of sound guys when it comes to an acoustic guitar sound. They figure that you're supposed to show up basically just with a preamp DI. And if you show up with something like this, where you've got speakers and an amplifier, they kind of look crosswise at you and they say, well, hey man, I can run your signal up through the wedges, through the monitor wedges on the floor. And I look at them and I say, no. You've usually got those monitor wedges EQ'd for vocals, which is appropriate because most of the time you know, a singer really is going to need to hear themselves over the top of a band. And that's just one example of a reason why I don't want my guitar coming back up through a house monitor rig. I want to carry my own sound with me. So this little stack, again, this is the left side of my, what I would call like a near field monitor rig. And in this is a full range cabinet with, this is kind of a custom job that I put together myself with a JBL 2404 horn, and it's basically in a small Yamaha 8-inch enclosure that I found. And then I had a small sub built for me, custom built by a designer here in the Twin Cities named Del Helmer, who built these for me a long time ago, and I've been using them forever. And so I actually have two of these, one on this side and one on the other side that you can't see, and it gives me a stereo field. Right? I'm using the stereo chorus to create a stereo split, but you're never going to hear that through a mono stack. You actually need a stereo, two sides, a left and right side to your boxes for you to be able to hear it. And for me to enjoy what I sound like on stage is really critical. I think it's critical to any player. If you really love the sound that you're creating in the immediate zone that you occupy on the stage, you're going to give a better performance. I mean, hands down, it's been a big thing for me to be able to give myself that, despite whatever pushback might come from a venue or from a stage manager or whatever. So this is basically the rig that I take out, and it's the rig that I use in the studio too. This is exactly the gear that I used on the last recording session that I did, and creates a great sound. Obviously, when you're in the studio, you're going to add in some kind of miking, and typically I would close mic these two stacks, and I would also create a stereo room mic to give a little bit of depth to the sound that I'm creating and that we're capturing for the recording. But basically, that is the Billy rig, and it's been the Billy rig for a really, really long time. And I still dig it, and I hope you do too.